So there are so many things that we can learn from play fighting or play fighting therapy um, that really translate into life skills. I believe that um, we've gotten to a point now in the social consciousness that everything is becoming so regulated and there are so many limits and controls to stop you from becoming violent or expressing emotion and lashing out and causing destruction, which I think is fair. However, it's almost virally infected our everyday movements right down to the point where you're in a cafe and or a bar and you order a glass of wine and it's only poured up to the line marked on the glass, and you say to the person, I would have really liked just an extra quarter of an inch. That would have just been fine for me, and I would have been satisfied and felt really good. And the person says, "Well, that's just how it is. That's policy. That's everyone's doing it, so that's all you get." And it sort of things like that, whether you think that's fair or not, and depending on how you look at it, whether it's right or wrong, this is another whole area. Who's right, who's wrong, why, all that sort of stuff. Just a simple thing like that can arouse emotions of, angst or indignancy or all sorts of things or revenge, right? So these are tiny little seeds that we have to be mindful of. And, for example, today I was at a cafe just down the road and ordered some breakfast and some coffees. And when I went up to pay, uh, I had $15 cash out. I thought I'd probably come around to about that much. And it came to $15.50. Now, the gentleman behind the counter who runs the business, he just looked at the money and said, "Oh, that's fine. I'll take the $15. Don't worry about the 50 cents." And it was like, wow, that's really nice. That doesn't really happen anymore. Where here I am, a regular customer. I go there nearly every day now, and I'm spending money every day about that much. And he sees the value in just letting a little thing like that slide, because he knows that, and he's not buying um, my business by doing that. He's just showing appreciation and saying thank you. And I really appreciate that. And that makes me want to go there more often and spend more money because even though I would have paid the 50 cents, it's no big deal. It's nothing. But little gestures like that I find they're really important and they're really lacking at the moment. Like when I do my sessions on Facebook, they're booked for an hour, and usually I run, I go an hour and a half, two and a half, 3 hours, and I don't charge any extra for that. I don't expect to be paid any extra for that. I'm doing it because that's what I want to do, and I think my students really appreciate that. I hope they do. I hope they don't take it for granted. And this is another thing is, where we're teaching all these little things through play fight therapy. Respect for your opponent, respect for your partner, respect for yourself. Where the boundaries are. What are boundaries are too rigid? What boundaries aren't strong enough? These are all things that get gauged and are formed through play fight therapy, and they're so important in everyday life. They're so useful. First of all, not to be walked over, and second of all, when you're strong, is to not walk over others just because you can. These are really important things. So, going back to the 300, the Spartans, they're getting invaded by the Persians, and that's the ultimate extreme of bullying. Here is a culture that has thousands and thousands of slaves, a huge army. They call it a horde. It's so vast. And here it comes to Sparta, which was, in their time, if you do any research, they were the most respected warriors in the world at that stage. And although Sparta was very small, and they probably could have quite easily invaded all of Greece, they chose not to. There was no need for it. And it shows, now we go into value systems, and it shows that they had a whole different value system. Although they were probably the best at the martial arts, and when I say martial arts, I'm talking about warfare itself, and that they had a whole society dedicated to this, and they probably had the best technology in terms of making weapons and using them, and their fighting style, and it even transcended into their society. And there's a whole lot more into that, which I won't go into. But they, as far as we know, they were never actually conquered. It suggests to me that they actually evolved past the value system that they were currently in, which the story was centered around, and they transcended into another value system where they basically invading your neighbor wasn't seen as good business, at least. So they would rather integrate with their neighbor, and they would rather support their neighbor, because they realized that in supporting their neighbor, they supported themselves, and that they avoided war altogether, which is probably the ultimate level of fighting, is where you take away any reason to fight in the first place.